After many years of thinking and planning and wishing and just dreaming of traveling through Latin America on my bicycle, on January 1st, 2006, I finally arrived at the Texas-Mexico border and began pedaling my trusty old Cannondale mountain bike, 1,492 miles or 2,447 kilometers, all the way through Mexico to the border of Guatemala.
Yo no me atrevo a bailar arriba de esa tarima. Yo no me atrevo a bailar arriba.
There were so many fascinating places to visit in Mexico that I had never imagined even existed. I ended up crisscrossing the country from the Pacific to the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean and back again many times. Although my intention was to continue cycling through Central and South America, I was so intrigued by what I'd seen in Mexico, I decided to postpone my plans as there was much more to learn and see. The number of archaeological sites in Mexico is endless, from Monte Alban in Oaxaca, Mitla in Oaxaca, Tenampuente in Chiapas, Palenque in Chiapas, Uxmal in the Yucatan Peninsula, all the way to Chichen Itza, Tulum, Calakmul. The list goes on and on. It is an extraordinary array of unique and diverse, fascinating places. I later, as a traveler and tour guide, traveled an additional 15,000 miles throughout the country. I explored many of the endless archaeological sites with pyramids, ceremonial centers, and ball courts. Since finishing my cycling trip, I've lived in Mexico for 17 years and worked as a businessman, teacher, and tour guide. Becoming fluent in Spanish a decade before coming to Mexico allowed me to integrate quickly into Mexican culture, especially since where I lived, there were no foreigners. Over the years, I have lived in, worked in, or traveled in 24 of Mexico's 32 states. My wife Daisy is Mexican, and we currently live in Chapala, Jalisco, on the outskirts of Guadalajara. Prior to living in Mexico, I got a degree in Latin American Studies and International Relations from American University in Washington, D.C. Studied in Cuba and was a Rotary Club exchange student in Ecuador. I worked extensively with Latinos in the United States as a simultaneous interpreter, translator, and manager. I fell in love with Latin America after my first trip to the region when I was just 16. After decades of experience in Mexico and Latin America, I feel compelled to share my understanding with you on this, the Everything Mexico channel. Whether you want to live in Mexico, already live in Mexico, or are thinking about traveling to Mexico, there are many interesting topics to cover, and inevitably, many things will be different from what you already imagine. Mexican culture is like a large onion. You keep peeling back the layers, one after another. Perhaps Alan Riding's book on Mexico, titled Distant Neighbors, puts it best. Because Mexico is truly a distant neighbor in its culture, politics, and economics to the US, Canada, and Northern European countries. Please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It helps the channel a lot. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, we'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you for watching Everything Mexico, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeehaw!